Hello. My name is Briana Whiteside, and I'm going to be talking about a very hot topic, imposter syndrome. And this video was requested by J. Marie Elu off of Instagram. And she asked me to talk about the imposter syndrome, which seems to be very prevalent among young scholars and even senior scholars in the academy. And so I want to talk about it because I think we need to have more discussions about these things. And people do need to know that this idea plagues a lot of people in higher education. So I want to give a little background because I did do some research so that I won't be giving any false information about the imposter syndrome. And I wanted to make sure that I was accurate. So the imposter syndrome was coined by scholars Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes in 1978. And the term is used to speak about the internal experiences of intellectual phoniness, which appears to be particularly prevalent and intense among a select sample of high-achieving women. According to the scholars, despite high-achieving women who experience this, persist in believing that they are really not bright and have fooled anyone who thinks otherwise. So the subjects for this study done in 1978 were middle to upper class women between the ages of 20 and 45. 15 were undergraduates, 20 were graduate students, and 10 were faculty. And their fields ranged from law, anthropology, nursing, counseling, religious education, social work, occupational therapy, and teaching. So according to the scholars, victims fall into two categories. The first category is that the victim has a very close relative who is seen as the smart one in the family, or the victim themselves are perceived as the smart one, the one who can do no wrong. The scholars of the article also say that the syndrome is self-perpetuated, that the root problem ultimately lies in social expectations of the women. They also provide 4 behaviors that perpetuate and maintain the syndrome. The first behavior that they give is diligence and hard work. The person who falls into the diligence and hard work section will receive validation from authorities even if it's temporary. So they look for this validation from people who can give them accolades and people who can validate them. Even if it's for a temporary moment, they still need it to survive. The scholars claim that it is a magical ritual that leads to empty success. So despite the fact that it is a magical ritual, people still do it because they so badly crave honor. They so badly crave the attention and validation of other people. The second category is intellectual flattery. And that's remaining silent in the face of an imposing view, downplaying your ideas to promote others. So, for instance, if someone says something to you that you don't agree with, you don't stand up for yourself, you don't push back, you don't offer your opinion, but you just nod and be silent, and internally you're fuming. Internally you're thinking about, if you should say something and if you should not say something. The third category is charm and perceptiveness. And that is the need to be liked and perceived as being intellectually special. If only the right person would validate me, is that thought process. These people who fall into this category, they study people to find out how they can seek their praises. So for instance, if you had a mentor who loved mushrooms, you would engage in a conversation about mushrooms, even if you're not interested in it. And the fourth category is societal expectations. According to the scholars, your femininity is generally called into question by your success. So the higher you move up on the success ladder, the more your femininity comes into question. The scholars give 4 recommendations to overcome this. First, they talk about group therapy. Second is imagine that you are in front of people you have charmed and admit to them that you have done those things. The third thing is to keep a record of the positive affirmations that you've received and recite them. The fourth thing is to have positive role play. And then the fifth thing is to be aware of times when you have been silent. So that is the background of the imposter syndrome. I'm going to give my experience and my thoughts about the imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome is not real. And I have to get that out there. The imposter syndrome is a magical thing. It is not real. It is not something that is tangible. What is real is the individual's relationship with their identity. People generally suffer from the imposter syndrome when they suffer from a broken relationship with their identity. When they don't know who they are, when they're not confident in their abilities, they suffer from this idea. I can say honestly that I once suffered from the imposter syndrome. I was once the student in the classroom who was silent when someone challenged an idea, or who went silent when someone said something I didn't agree about. I was also the person who tried to do research on someone else in the classroom and quote back to them what they said, or do research on from a high-level scholar and quote back to them what they said. I used to suffer from this idea that I did not belong. And so what the Instagram subscriber asked was, how do you overcome and how do you deal with it? There's no easy way to do it, but it comes over time. First thing you need to realize is that you belong in a classroom just like everyone else. No one made a mistake on admitting you. They didn't choose any, mini, miny, mo to admit you into the college. You earned your right to be there, whether you realize it or not. College admissions are brutal, especially graduate school college admissions. Everyone does not get accepted into graduate schools of their choice. So this is the first thing. You deserve the right to be there. The second thing I would say is to understand that no one has to validate your ideas. No one has to validate your ideas. Your ideas are unique to you. They are what God has gifted you, and they will take you far. You have to have confidence in your ideas and your intellectual property. I kind of talk about that in a previous video about 5 things that I wish I knew about grad school. But that is one of the key things about overcoming this magical imposter syndrome. Know that your ideas are valid. The third thing I would say, and I agree with the scholars, is find a community to help you get through. Sometimes graduate school forces us into isolation. That's not always a good thing. Yes, you need to focus, but you also need a group of people that you can talk to. I'm a major advocate of community, and I didn't know how important community was until I was left without one. I went to a HBCU for undergrad. I went to a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution, for my master's, and I'm at a PWI for my PhD. And those small communities, even if it's one other person who's in your program, you need to have those conversations. You need to be able to vent, to talk about it, because you don't want to contain it. Because if you contain it, it might combust at the wrong time. So you don't want to do that. So get in a group. That's what I say. Find your group person. The fourth thing that I would say is to develop an intricate relationship with yourself. Develop an intricate relationship with yourself. Self-care is important. It is important to cultivating your identity, your thoughts, the way you move, the way you think, and all the above. Find room to allow yourself to come down off the graduate school high horse. Find time to invest in yourself. Do something recreational. I know that doesn't seem like, that has anything to do with this imposter syndrome, but it does, because it's a psychological thing. It is all in your mind. So find time to invest in you. All of these things helped me matriculate through a master's program and a PhD program. Right now, I'm at the stage where I begin writing my dissertation next month. So I know I'm at the end of it. 75% of my PhD has been completed within 3 years, and I'm grateful for that. So I hope this helped you. If you have any other questions, leave it in the comment space below, and I'll be sure to answer it for you. So until next time, take care and take care of yourself. Talk to you soon.